Hey, guess what, everybody? It's finally time to say the Phillies finally made the playoffs. First time in 11 years. Yes, a round of applause for our fighting
Let's
Phillies.
go.
Let's go. Trending in the AM starts in 30 seconds.
Holding gets around in front. Joel Embiid,
and Philadelphia has it.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media Live. Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Like, share, retweet, and follow on all social media platforms. And if you want to get interactive with this show, make sure you head over to the DSM Media YouTube page. You hit the like button. You hit the subscribe button. Drop your comments there. Even the bad ones. They help us build up that algorithm. Get us up on the board a little bit further. But there's nothing negative that you can say today because the Phillies have made the playoffs. And we're here to break it down, talk about it. We're also going to talk Sixers, first preseason game last night, and the Eagles, clearly the class of the NFL after another brutally mediocre Monday Night Football game last night. I am Phil Stifler, your host at Bearded Knowledge. We got Dylan today here. Good morning, Dylan. How you doing today?
I'm good, Phil. You said it. No comment, no nothing can ruin my mood today. It's the finish line is crossed. We are there, my friend. So I don't have to sweat out the next 2 nights. I don't have to do nothing but sit back, relax, and wait for Friday.
11 years. It's been 11 damn
I was
years.
13 years old.
I was just going to say, how old were you, Dylan? 11 years ago.
Yep, 13 damn years old, dude. Like
popping pimples still.
Had the long flowy hair. Dude,
long flowy hair, really?
Yep,
I need a picture of Dylan with long flowy hair.
Yeah, well, if the Phillies win a series, maybe we'll get that put out, all right?
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
11 years. I mean, I was still a grown-ass man 11 years ago because I'm old as hell right now. I was still in my 30s, Dylan. You know?
It's true.
At that point. What does it mean, Dylan, to the city, to the fans, and the organization? Look, it's been a tumultuous season. A lot of highs, a lot of lows. It didn't go as planned for a lot of fans on how they expected and predicted it. But they still got there. They still crossed that finish line,
100%.
Made the playoffs. And I think to an extent, it doesn't matter how they got there. Getting there for the first time in 11 years means so much to so many different people. What do you think?
That is the bottom line, man. That is the biggest takeaway from last night and making the postseason for the first time in over a decade. Like it doesn't matter throughout this roller coaster of a ride that this fan base and this team went on this entire season. And obviously September started out extremely ugly, and we all thought that another September collapse was upon us. But that doesn't matter. The Cup Series doesn't matter. The Mets series earlier later in the summer doesn't matter. The fact that they were able to persevere and kind of put this run together down the stretch, it's not like they got swept by Houston and the Brewers dropped the game to the D-backs and they backed their asses into the postseason. No, they went out on night one, and we'll get into the game itself, but pulled out a great performance and for what I thought was like playoff atmosphere, just from the call on the broadcast and everything, and the energy from the team felt like playoff baseball. But it means so much. Like I said, dude, this is the first time in my adult life I'm experiencing Phillies playoff baseball. And it sounds crazy because as a kid, I was so used to it. I was so accustomed to just having the Phillies on in October. And then I'm sitting there last night, and it kind of didn't even hit me until I'm watching the celebration, because you go through these September collapses the last 3 or 4 years, and you're kind of numb to this feeling. Like you're just used to the last series either not meaning anything or the Phillies coming up short and needing other teams to lose to get in. The fact that they were 1 win away heading into the final series and they controlled their own destiny to make the playoffs, it didn't feel like real at first. And then you see the celebration, you're like, wow.
Look, you brought up a really great point there. You said that the last run you were a young kid in. That's kind of how it felt for me in '93. I was 13 in '93, And then the 07 through 11 series was my first time as an adult experiencing it. And all that you're saying is kind of how I felt then. But as a diehard Phillies fan, look, I've said it before. I've always wanted to have a morning show. I love doing this morning show. But one of the number one reasons why I wanted to do this morning show was so we could talk Phillies during a long baseball
During
season.
the summer, yeah.
Because I love baseball. The Phillies are my baby. They're my pride and joy. I love football. I love the Sixers. I'm passionate about all of it. When it comes down to it, the Phillies mean more to me than anything else. And, going from 11 till now, and maybe I didn't watch 9 innings of 162 games,
right.
across those 11 years. Let me tell you something, Dylan. Compared to most fans, I probably watched a higher percentage than anybody else because that's what they mean to me. So the payoff of getting here and not backdooring in because we lose out, but the Brewers lose one game, that just if they would have been celebrating last night the way they did, if it was a backdoor in, maybe I would have had some slight hesitation. They took care of business last night. Nola, as Kyle's saying here, finally,
humongous,
with a big
man.
outing. It's not September. It's
October, it is October. But listen,
But
go ahead.
What was that?
No, I was just going to say, like, to all the flack we've given Aaron Nola, and deservingly so, like, someone in the locker room last night said, he proved a lot of people wrong. Well, that's not true, because for the last 2 or 3 seasons, the numbers don't lie. His starts don't lie. In September, he had really bad Septembers. However, he turned the page last night. And for all the flack we did give him about those collapses and those bad performances, in the biggest game of his life, in the biggest game of his career, he not only showed up, Phil, he showed out. Like there was a moment there, and of course, NBC Sports Philly had to put the little thing on the screen, and people start tweeting about it.
Right there.
I can't stand it, but it did feel like Rob Thompson said it for a second. Like, I legitimately felt like he was going to throw a perfect game. He was that in control of such a dominating lineup. The slider, the curveball had so much movement on it against right-handed hitters. It was ridiculous. But then even I'll take a step further, dude. Jose Alvarado comes in and gets 4 outs and was spectacular last night.
Eflin coming
shutting the door. First save ever.
We just magically find a closer for the postseason right there, which we'll get into that in a second because he's not going to be closing. I got
they're best friends. There you go.
I want to say what we talk about what it means for us and the fans and the team and the organization. Certain players on the team, someone like Aaron Nola, who's been here a long time, come up short. Reese Hoskins, who's faced a lot of criticism in this city. Bryce Harper came here to make the playoffs 4 years ago, hasn't gotten it done. It's fun and great that Stott and Bohm and some of these young guys, Kyle Schwarber,
Segura,
just been here a year. The veterans that have been here a long time and never gotten to taste postseason baseball, I think it means more to them than anybody else.
Well, it has to, but also Segura, before his time here, he's either the longest or one. Yeah, he's the longest player in the MLB. Well, tenure-wise, that has not been in the postseason.
Wow, that's
obviously there's younger guys that have been here for 2-3 years that haven't. Like, he's not the only person that hasn't been in the postseason in the MLB, clearly, but he's been in the MLB. He's the longest guy without being in the playoffs. Which is crazy.
I remember in 2009 and 10 when the Phillies would clinch their playoff spot. Obviously, in 7 and 8 when they clinched their playoff spot, it was mostly the core young guys. Then we started adding the Cliff Lees and the Roy Halladay's and the Roy Oswalts and all. And the guys that had been there before gave those veterans the first chance to pop the first bottle of champagne, to have the first moment and all. And I didn't catch the entirety of the celebration. I kind of feel like it has that same meaning to the Seguras, the Harpers, the Aaron Nolas, the Hoskins, the guys that have been here a long time and that have been here through all the collapses, that I really think that they are the ones that it meant the most to. And hopefully they got to enjoy the moment the most last night.
I'll give you another one. The manager.
He was the next guy up on my chopping block.
Lifelong baseball guy, been in this organization for I forget how long, and he's finally there as well. It has to feel effing amazing, dude. And now he's never going to
Wasn't he
show it. He's got the
wasn't he part
same
of
facial expression every
wasn't he
day.
part of the Yankees in '09, though? I think he was part of the coaching staff of the Yankees in '09, so
Maybe,
he's been there
maybe,
already. Because he was part of Joe
maybe.
Girardi's staff before coming here, I'm pretty sure. What's
Okay.
good, my man, James? Yeah, I mean, Hoskins was tearing it up after the game. I'm sure there's some fun videos that came out.
Tearing.
And they were partying pretty hard there. Rob Thompson. I saw the first. So this morning I wake up, do what I do. First thing I do is I check Twitter and social media and stuff. And my man James Warner from the Philadelphia Sports Podcast, he's been a guest on the show many of times. And the first tweet he made this morning was the interim tag needs to be taken off of Rob Thompson's name immediately. And I instantly said, no way, Jose.
There you go.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be a downer on this. I mean, it was a huge moment. I mean, he is one of only 6 coaches in the history of baseball to take over a team mid-season that was 7 games or worse below 500 and turn them around to make the playoffs. The last 2 were 2009 Colorado. I forget what the coach's name was. And in 1989, Cito Gaskin took over a Blue Jays team and led them to the playoffs, and then actually led them to the playoffs quite a bit. And obviously they won the World Series in '93 against us. So it's a rare feat to, and I'm not trying to take away, I'm not trying to be negative on this very joyous morning for Phillies fans and the team and the organization. But is what Rob Thompson did this year worthy of an extension into just getting to the playoffs, ending this drought? Is it enough? And am I just being a little too harsh at a very joyous moment right now?
Yeah, it's enough.
Yeah.
It's enough, man. Like because there's multiple reasons why they obviously made the playoffs and end this drought. Now, obviously, I know where you stand. Like I would love to see a series win as well, and then maybe that's enough. But they made the playoffs. They ended this drought. The dude's got about a 600 winning clip at the moment. Exactly, he's got a 596 winning percentage since taking over.
Take those first 2 weeks out. What was it?
But you're not allowed to because that's
that,
his winning percentage. And then just all the injuries this team went through. They didn't go through these injuries under Girardi, and that's why they were 8 or 9 games under. He takes over. They lose Gene for months. They lose Bryce for 2 months. They lose Castellanos for a month. They lose Schwarber. They lose the back end of their bullpen. They lose 2 or 3 starters. All of this, not only are they still winning, they were able to, again, I know we didn't highlight it as much as we did in June and July and August, but in September, when they got swept by the Cubs and things were looking awful, they bounced back, man. Now, obviously, we wanted to sweep the Nationals, but you win 3 or 4 against Nationals in really bad weather conditions, like we said about the Eagles, and then you come out last night, you win this game, the first game against Houston when it matters. It just seems like the clubhouse responds to them. And they play for him. Now, I don't know how long that's sustainable. Maybe you're right. Maybe this was a half a year thing. The manager got fired, so it lit a spark, and they like him now. Who knows how it goes over a full 162-game stretch. But right now, it seems like they like him. Seems like they play for him. He gets them up. He gets them ready, and they've made the playoffs. So, yeah, I think it's time to take the tag off of the interim.
I think you make. I'm slowly coming to terms that I have to accept that. And I'm slowly coming to terms with the fact that it is pretty remarkable what he did. And you mentioned all the injuries, and all of them, I mean, it's part of baseball, but I mean, damn, we faced a lot of them. The one injury that we don't talk about enough is not Bryce Harper missing. What did he miss? 2 months, you said? 6, 8 weeks, something like that?
Yeah.
It's the fact that he's been playing injured since like week 2 of the season and had to be – he's arguably one of the best right fielders in baseball, got one of the best arms in right field, covers so much ground. And he's been regulated to a DH role.
Yeah.
And he has said it multiple times that being a DH affects it. Like not playing the field affects him at the plate.
It has to. You're just sitting around.
Before he got hurt and missed those 2 months, he was trending to be a top 5 MVP candidate again.
Oh, yeah. He's hitting like 315.
And he was hitting everything. I mean, he struggled when he came back a little bit there. But him being forced to DH, move Nick Castellanos to right field, a spot he hadn't played in his entire career. That alone and being able to maneuver that as a team is something that goes untalked about enough because, again, like I said, it's not just the Nick Castellanos aspect of it. It's the defense, the Bryce Harper. I don't know what his defensive run saved is for Nick Castellanos, where he ranks defensively.
Yeah.
but it can't be average. It's got to be below average where he ranks, out there compared to Bryce Harper, who's one of the top, few out there in right field. So I think that part of it as well needs to be thrown into the injury conversation as well.
I'll take it a step further. It doesn't have anything to do with an injury, and to us fans, it's really like a dumb move. We were all screaming for it, but the fact that the second he walks through this door as the new manager, Bryson Stott's playing shortstop every day. Alec Boehm's at third base every day.
Right.
There is no more Didi Gregorius. They actually let go of Didi Gregorius. They let
I was
go
actually surprised.
of
I just realized
Familia.
the other day he is playing in the Dominican League right now.
Is he? I had no idea.
Yeah, some fall Dominican League or Cuban League. I don't know. Some fall league.
Well, good
somewhere.
for Didi.
I am surprised. Not one person picked him up. That's how bad he was. But yeah, Joe Girardi was trotting him out there every single day.
That's why it's not
one major league team took a chance on a World Series champion.
Right. That's why it's not like a oh shit moment that Thompson did this, but he did instill the confidence. Like, why do you think Bryson Stott? Now, the average at the end of the year is like 220, 225. It's not pretty, but he was hitting like 150, 160. So why do you?
He had a sub-3 OPS before he got demoted the first time.
But why do you think that is, Phil? Because he's playing every day. There's some confidence in the kid. There's rhythm within the kid.
Dude, we talked about this on the morning show many of times early in the season. Put him out there every day or send him down because you cannot. It was the same problem that Mickey Moniak had up here.
Not platoon him.
It was the same problem that a lot of young guys have had up here. Is if they go 0 for 2 in the first 6 innings of a game, they're going to get pulled and be benched the next day. Yeah. You can't build knowing you can go out there and just swing freely. And if I have an 0 for 4 day, that I'm still going to be in the lineup the next day, goes a massive amount. 100%. As a young player, Alec Boehm. Hey, if I make an error, I'm not going to be benched. I'm going to be allowed to learn as we go. And this team is talented enough.
And he's been a lot better at third base.
Oh, absolutely. Alec Boehm may actually be a Major League Baseball third baseman. He has improved leaps and bounds. Just when you see him field a ground ball, you don't see the hesitation anymore. It's just a natural
double clutch.
There's none of that. It's he grabs the ground ball and he lets it rip.
Right. And no one's saying he doesn't make errors anymore.
Right. He still makes them.
But
it's just great to see the confidence that he. So while he might not be the rah-rah manager, Rob Thompson, he does know how to put confidence in each player.
Confidence. Yep.
Yeah, they have confidence. They know what their role is. Now, I'm not sure about how he's managed Bryson Stott towards the end of the year in the lineup. I mean, he's anywhere from 1, 4, 7, 6, 9, 8, 2. He's pretty much played everywhere. So that's a question mark to me. But all that being said, it may be time for me to jump on the Rob Thompson bandwagon a little bit.
Yeah, man. And listen, now this could just be fluky as well, but because there's nothing really he's doing different with the catcher. But the fact that JT went from being a problem that we were discussing early on this year, why they were down 8 or 9 games under 500, to hitting over 300 in the latter part of the season, stealing 20 plus bases, throwing out 46% of the guys that run on him, whatever that number is, hitting for power, hitting for cut. I don't know what it is, but he just seems to get everybody up. And listen, man, we're almost 20 minutes into the show, and we haven't mentioned one specific guy from last night's ball game. That is why you sign Kyle Schwarber. It is exactly why. Dude, I get it. He's hitting 220, 218. I don't care. He hit 46 home runs now with 2 to go. Okay, it is now the 6th most in Phillies history. Ryan Howard has 3, and Mike Schmidt has the other 2 ahead of Kyle Schwarber in his first year here.
Jim Thome didn't even do that.
No, he hit his 7th leadoff home run last night. And here's the point about it all. Now, I know the Astros ultimately didn't end up scoring a single run. I know the Phillies didn't ultimately end up scoring again until the 7th or 8th inning. The point is, it set a tone. Opening at bat, on the road, big moment. I'm going to drive this opposite field a long way, and we're going to set the tone out the gate. Now, obviously, in a playoff game, you're hoping that they can tack on shortly thereafter. But the fact of the matter is, it set a tone. He's a leader. You saw it in the clubhouse afterwards. I get the average. It's not him, man. What I would love for him to hit 40.
I'm surprised his average ended up as high as it did this year. I mean, he's had a couple seasons where he's hit 202, 196, and
Listen,
stuff like that.
Don't get me
So
wrong. I would love for it to be like 230, 235. Fact of the
Yeah,
matter is,
exactly.
I'll take 218, 220 with 46, 47 home runs. The
Absolutely.
odd part is he's got 46 home runs and only like 90 RBIs. It's a little weird, but I don't care,
A lot
man.
of solo,
Like,
well, as a leadoff hitter, a lot of solo home runs and stuff like
right.
that. Frankie, I don't want to get into next season's moves until this season's over.
Yeah.
You know, I want to focus on now and what we do going forward. I mean, last night's game, you bring up Kyle Schwarber leading off. Look, I know he's not a prototypical leadoff hitter, but to me, what you're saying and how the leadoff home runs and how that sets the tone, I'm almost big picture okay with them keeping Kyle Schwarber in that leadoff spot.
Me too.
Long term.
Me too.
Because honestly, you lead off the game once. How often do you really, lead off every time you're up there? You don't. So I think it's the leadoff spot conversation is a little overblown, in my opinion.
Not to mention, Phil, he
what's
strikes out. Not to mention he strikes out. Don't get me wrong, but the
Right.
dude has a great eye, so he's able to work counts early in the game.
Absolutely.
He is able to walk at times. Now, don't get me wrong. There's times he chases. Sometimes he goes after a high fastball and gets gassed. But he is like it's fine. Like I just don't think the lineup looks correct if Gene's the leadoff hitter. You know, like
Right.
or if Boehm's the leadoff hitter. It just doesn't feel right.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. So last night's lineup, they win, whatever. Where are you? We got 2 games left. We're locked up. I mean, I guess there's a very, 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 very slim chance that if they win out and a couple teams lose, we
Just
could move up
it's
to
San
5
Diego.
spot. Yeah, it's a very slim chance, but it's possible. Are you playing to win? Or are you giving a majority of your veterans the day off today to celebrate? They probably celebrate pretty hard.
Yeah, I'm gonna say
Are
there's a
you
couple
resting guys
hangovers.
tonight?
Yeah, I am. So they can move up to the 2 spot and end up playing the Mets. And while as the fan in me would love to play New York in a 3-game set in the playoffs with the way they've kind of collapsed here at the end of the year, losing the division lead to the Braves, I think they'd have to win. They had to finish a game above the Padres, and they're a game behind right now. So
Yeah.
I think they had to win out, and the Padres had to lose out. I just don't see it happening. And exactly right. I'd probably prefer to play the St. Louis Cardinals at the moment. So with that said, JT's getting a night off. Reese is getting a night off.
JT and Bryce are getting the next 2 nights off, in my opinion.
Right. Reese is getting like Derek Hall's getting some action at first base.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. You'll probably see Schwarber get a night off one night, Castellanos get a night off the other night, I'd imagine. I'd expect to see a lot of them not play the last 2.
Okay. And I agree with you on that. And that was a minor part of the conversation, but all that conversation's leading to, everybody preferring, but also most likely facing the Cardinals team. And first off, everything worked out. I mean, the whole rain situation this past weekend in Washington and the way the games had to be played and when actually kind of worked out in our favor, because now we get 1-2. We get Zach Wheeler Friday night. We get Aaron Nola Saturday. Bing bang boom. You get your 2 aces going right away against the Cardinals team. Now the Cardinals haven't released what their rotation's going to look like in the playoffs.
It doesn't matter to me.
It doesn't matter. Wainwright's going to pitch one of them.
Wainwright's 100 years old.
Yeah, exactly. But they do have the card. We're like talking about how we prefer the Cardinals when quietly the Cardinals are a really good baseball team. They're winning their division.
For sure.
They have 2 guys that both deserve the MVP, but probably won't get it because they're probably teammates. They take votes from each other. Paul Goldschmidt, a hell of a freaking season. He's been a great baseball player that's been underappreciated for a really long time. Really, really having a great season. And then obviously Nolan Arenado over there in St. Louis. 2 guys that, I mean, it's just 2 of the hardest.
You got the Pujols effect right now too.
Yeah. Oh, the Pujols effect. I mean, come on now. I mean, I want him to keep playing for a few more years at this point.
Yeah.
Let him get to 700 or something like that, or 750.
He's at 750.
Yeah, I mean, let him get to 756 and take over. Bonds' record there. Are we sleeping on how good this Cardinals team is? I mean, we beat them in the season series. I've got it up here. I think it was 4-3 we went against them.
So when I say I prefer playing the Cardinals, I'm not sleeping on them. So like I don't know if Philly fans are sleeping on them just as much as not wanting to play the one team that's given us a matchup nightmare all year long in their house, where the Phillies have kind of just shrunk up. This is the fight. So to put this together, this is one thing I'll say about that win last night, Phil. You mentioned that they can kind of like the party is on. Maybe that's exactly what they needed, because you could just tell how tight they were playing and how under pressure they felt.
Yeah.
Now, you're in the dance now. Now, not that the pressure is gone, because there's pressure in the playoffs, obviously.
Yeah.
But you got over that hill of collapsing. Let's see how they look in the first round. Not to mention, we'll get into that in a second. But no, I'm not so much.
I think that's a great point, though. They got over that hump now. Maybe they could play freer in the playoffs.
I hope so, man. I really hope so.
I mean, let's be honest. Bryce Harper signed a $300+ million contract and hasn't gotten to this team to the playoffs yet. He's got to be, even though he's played at MVP level, won an MVP award here. There's got to be a lot of pressure on him. Nick Castellanos, big money contract. There's got to be a lot of pressure on him. Aaron Nola, the collapses, a lot of pressure on him.
Rhys Hoskins, et cetera, et cetera.
He finally did it. Is there a chance? I got some specific questions and points to talk about the series, but with that lack of pressure and that playing looser, we might be overrating or underrating the Cardinals. But are we underrating the fact that the Phillies could actually win this 3-game series?
Yeah,
they really could, couldn't they?
They can, Phil, because here's the thing. You had the 1-2 punch lined up perfectly with how the season has played out. And this was my next point, and I'm glad you brought this up. As much as this team makes us want to pull our hair out at the plate sometimes, and I'm not saying that could show up, I think you get one of two versions from the Phillies this weekend. You are either getting like a 2-game quick sweep because the bats are ice cold, or you get the opposite end of the stick. And now we all talked about how streaky these guys are and how streaky the lineup is. Now, that can be a bad thing. But when you only need about a 2-3 week span of it in a dance like this, that's when this streakiness can really play out nicely. So in a 3-game, it's just a small 3-game set, 2 wins. Yes, if the lineup shows up, the Phillies will win this series.
All right. So here's the thing. So we talk about Aaron Nola. Zach Wheeler will obviously be going the first 2 games of the series. What we had this conversation about 2 months ago on this show, and you said that Ranger Suarez was now the number 3 pitcher.
Yeah, man.
In this rotation. If this goes to a game 3, are you rolling with Ranger Suarez? We split the first 2 games, however it plays out. Are you going to be able to say you're confident with Ranger Suarez in game 3? Because I read an article. I think it was NBC Sports Philly, it was one of the beat reporters that we've had on the show, Phillies Nation or something like that, wrote an article because of the right-handed heavy offensive lineup of the Cardinals. He made a case for our new superstar closer, Zach Eflin, to start game 3.
No.
Go just to get through 2 or 3 innings, to get through that lineup for the first time with some of those righties, and then you put Ranger in for the next 3 or 4 innings. It just piqued my interest because it makes sense. Zach Eflin against Goldschmidt, Arenado in the first 2 innings.
I'm throwing Bailey Falter first. Let me throw that out there. But
over Ranger Suarez?
Ranger is going to be the 3. You're right.
Absolutely.
I would argue it potentially the other way around. You have Eflin in the bullpen for a reason. He's been great out of the bullpen.
Right.
And I would let Ranger get the first hack at it. And now I'm not saying if Ranger gets down 5-0, don't let it get that far. But you had that security blanket of Zach Eflin in the bullpen to come in if Ranger gets in trouble in the 2nd or 3rd inning to kind of take the reins over and be a long reliever in that sense. Now, obviously, that's not ideal. That's not what we want to play out. But I wouldn't take a guy who's coming off of a long sustaining injury and rehab, who's only thrown a couple of innings, and try to start him for a few to start a playoff game and then go to Ranger.
Right.
I'd do it the other way around.
The other scenario where I say game 1, let's just play it out. Game 1, Zach Wheeler's dominant. We win 3-1, say. So I'm just randomly throwing something out there. Game 2, Aaron. No, actually, hold on. I have to flip that. We lose game 1 about 3-1. Zach Wheeler pitches well, whatever. It just doesn't work out. Now you're in sudden death mode. Game 2, Aaron Nola's pitching well. Maybe his pitch count getting up there. our bullpen is a question mark. I mean, there are some. You got Alvarado, you've got Eflin that's pitched well so far. Is Ranger Suarez available to come in game 2? Because if you lose game 2, there is no game 3 for him to start.
Right.
Do you use Ranger Suarez in that situation? And then you can worry about Noah Syndergaard, Bailey Falter, whoever to start game 3. Do you bring Ranger Suarez in clutch moments if you need a bullpen game, say in game 2, or you need 2 outs in game 2 that are going to be super, super important? Is there a scenario where he's one of your best pitchers at this point? There is no tomorrow in certain situations.
If you're in full on survival mode, yeah, I mean, I can see. I don't know if Rob, I don't know if the longtime baseball guy ends up pulling it out, but it's a hell of a lot better solution to me than throwing Nick Nelson or Bilotti or one of those guys out in the 5th or 6th inning in the playoff game. I'm not doing it.
In the 5th inning, bases loaded. Do you want Bilotti, Nick Nelson, or Ranger Suarez in game 2?
Yeah,
it's got to be Ranger Suarez in that moment.
Yeah,
I mean, you should probably have faith in Zach Eflin or Alvarado or Dominguez to come in.
I'm not trying. If it's a tight game, I'm not trying to use Alvarado in the 5th inning.
Exactly, because you'll need him in the 8th or the 7th.
But
but
then again, if you're in full on survival mode,
you're in survival mode. See, that's the thing with playoff baseball that I love. When it gets to the survival mode aspect of a series, you just don't know what's going to happen.
No.
And in my opinion, I talked about this, last weekend or on Monday after the weekend about, you had that doubleheader and JT didn't play both games of it. I'm like, it's because you're in survival mode at this point. Everybody is playing until it's done. Right. And then you can rest getting ready for the playoffs. And I took a little flack for that. But when you get to a certain point in a baseball season or in the playoffs, it's survival mode. It's different than basketball. It's different than hockey. In a best-of-7 series or best-of-3 in the first round, there's no tomorrow when you get up against the wall. Everybody's available.
Paul Creed said it best. There is no tomorrow, man. So I don't know who gave you flack for that comment, but
I got a bunch of flack saying that JT should have started both games in the doubleheader because it was that important to win those games. Now we ended up winning 8-1 or whatever in that second game.
Like that's what you said, right? You said he should start both games.
I said he should start both games.
Yeah.
And Ruben Amaro then, because Ruben Amaro follows my tweets probably, went on like the pre-post game show in between the doubleheader and said the exact same thing. That why can't he start both games? You're
JT said it last night. JT came out and talked to Tom McCarthy in the locker room and said he feels like he's not just saying this. He feels like he's in the best shape of his life over this past month or so because whatever it is, it's his adrenaline or whatever, but having to play every day and the momentum and the kind of how much every game means, every play means, he's not even like feeling it, which is great. Now he's going to hit a brick wall at the end of the season, but for the time being,
get him the next 2 days off. So you got Tuesday,
and then he's got Thursday off.
Thursday off. He gets 3 days off. JT can rest the next 3 days for all I care.
Oh yeah.
But in my opinion, JT, Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, all 3 of them, maybe even Kyle Schwarber, all 4 of them, do not touch the field the next 3 days. The next 2 games, and they get their Thursday off. Those guys
I'm sitting Reese at least one.
Yeah, Reese could sit one. Bone could sit one. Scott could sit one. Right. You can rotate the young guys and give them 1 extra day off. You still got to be able to field a team out there. But the big guns, the big 4 veterans, they're getting 3 days off, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, and you got Castellanos coming off of an injury. So, like, you should be happy to get him a couple days rest before the playoffs start.
I don't think Schwarber's played this much field in his career because he's always been a candidate. So,
listen, man, this is the one thing I've been waiting for. And we have all these – there's so many guys I point to in this clubhouse where it's like just get like I know you have and we all have been craving Bryce Harper in playoff atmosphere since he's arrived in Philadelphia. That's now as much as I've been critical of Nick Castellanos since he's come back and even before the injury and the ups and downs he's had this season, just that personality, that guy that has the potential to take over a game or so. Getting him in the playoffs, Kyle Schwarber with leadoff bombs, getting him like there's just so many guys I'm excited to see play in playoff atmosphere. And like you just said, it's not in Philly. You're right. But guess what, man? I'm asking you to win one more road series win one more road series, and you get a Red October here in Philadelphia.
There's nothing like it. There's nothing like
No.
dude. I mean, I know my tweet, kind of, or my comment here would normally get a little flack. I typed this up, before the show started, and I did not mention the Flyers in it. But the Phillies, Sixers, Eagles all playing at the same time. I mean, it's only happened a few times in our lifetime.
Oh, last night was amazing for me. Last night I had Sixers up preseason, Monday Night Football, and Phillies clincher on. And it was just like, I had the window open. It felt crisp in here. And I was just like, oh, this is great.
It was cold. You had the windows open last night?
Oh, dude, I thought sleeping in the cold is the best.
Oh, dude, oh, man. It was
I
a little too nippy out for that.
I had the fan on me, too.
All right, we're going to take a quick pause here in the action to mention one of our sponsors. Today's show is brought to you by Gents Barber Lounge. Check out one of their 2 great locations in Fishtown and Old City and book your appointment today. Gents owns the craft and it shows. Rated the #1 barber shop on Yelp in the Philadelphia area. Multiple award-winning barbers and being able to handle any style or cut, adult or kid. Check out their quick video real quick. And that's, again, Gents Barber Lounge in Philadelphia there. All right, so, yes, I did, Frankie. I cut the Flyers out. Yes, I did. But until we actually spent 10 minutes last week talking Flyers on this show, which was 10 more minutes than I spent in the previous 6 months talking Flyers on this show. The Flyers got to show us something before they get back into the regular rotation and the regular mindset and thought process, Dylan. But you mentioned it, Sixers. Preseason. We got the next couple of days. We'll continue our Phillies talk. We'll continue talking about the playoffs and stuff as we get set. Friday's show is normally a show that's dedicated to football.
Oh, yeah.
We might actually have to go a little long on Friday because we're going to have to prep for the first playoff game in 11 years, along with Eagles, Cardinals, talk. So, we've got lots to going on Friday. So we might make it an hour and 15, hour and 20-minute show. That's right. Go Sixers. Sixers preseason game, #1 last night against the Brooklyn Nets in Brooklyn. Ben Simmons played. Hey, I got to say it, Dylan. Is there any theory or thought to my theory that Joel Embiid not playing? He's ducking Ben Simmons, isn't he?
100%. James Harden ducking Kyrie.
Ben Simmons and Kyrie. Yeah, absolutely. Right. All right. So obviously, first preseason game. Harden and Embiid didn't play. It was a road game. They probably, didn't, you don't really see them play much in the preseason anyway.
Tucker didn't play.
Yeah, Tucker didn't play. You had Maxey play a little bit. What he played, like 15, 16 minutes, something along those lines.
Yeah, they played the first half. Yeah, they played 14, 15 minutes.
What were your thoughts from last night's game? So, I mean, like you, I was flipping between Monday Night Football. I was watching the Phillies. I was drinking at Barnaby's and Westchester. I was doing a little bit of everything there. So my focus wasn't intent play by play. The only things that really stuck out to me last night were 3 things. Ben Simmons bricking free throws and a fadeaway jumper. Maxey absolutely dominant in his 15 minutes. And Furkan Korkmaz trying to keep himself in the rotation with about 15 strong minutes.
Arm sleeve's got to go, bro. The arm sleeve 100% has to go. I can't do it. I really can't do it. But so that's a great call. He is the exact same player. Now it's preseason game 1. And things can change, I guess. But as we know here in Philadelphia, things aren't going to change with Ben Simmons. And now maybe with the shooters around him and in the regular season, longer minutes, it'll look better. But in the first half, he was a -10, a couple turnovers, and went 0 for 2 from the free throw line and bricked a turnaround fadeaway jumper from the elbow. So he looked exactly the same. The talking point is the fact that, again, it's preseason, it's game 1, and they played a half. But the fact of the matter is Tyrese Maxey was the best player on the floor with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant on that floor with him. That's how impressive. Philly came out of the gate, and I don't know if you caught the beginning of the game, but he came out the gate banging 2 pull-up threes in a row to start the game. I believe he shot 6 of 8, went 6 for 6 from the line. He was in total control of the floor. He demanded the ball. He picked the spots from 3-point line. He picked the spots when to get into the paint. And dude, he's so small, but he's so quick with that first step. And he just takes it into defender's chest and he's able to finish through contact. If he doesn't, he's knocking down both free throws. I think he went 6 of 6 from the free throw line. He was amazing last night. Tobias Harris looked good. Melton didn't shoot well. He banged a 3, but the energy's there with him. My biggest thing, man, I've seen just 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today, just get me there. I've seen it. I don't need to see any more. I don't need to see Joel Embiid play. I don't need to see James Harden play. Just get me to night 1 because, Phil, I'm with you. The Phillies, they're your baby. I love the Phillies. I haven't seen Phillies playoff baseball since I was a preteen. I can't wait for this weekend. The Eagles are my number 1. They have all my attention, always. The Sixers are going to give the Eagles a run for their money. Now, obviously, I'm not going to watch a Sixers game on a Sunday afternoon over the Eagles game. Not to mention, there's maybe one a year that they put on Sunday in like December or January, so it doesn't happen. But they will have just as much of my attention throughout the week and talking about them as the Eagles will.
Absolutely. I think the thing that you touched on there at the very beginning of your little monologue there, Maxey being the best player on the floor when you've got Ben Simmons, Kyrie Irving,
and Kevin Durant.
I'm sure you saw the clips, of Doc Rivers, because he's already, after one preseason game, he's re-earned his name Doc back to me. The season's starting, so he's back to Doc. Until he pisses me off, he's back to Doc.
Yeah.
You saw the clips, him talking to Maxey and being like, yo,
great.
Don't defer. If you want the play, you call the play. You want the shot, you take the shot. And that's what I want to see. And I said this all of last year. When he was on the floor with James Harden and Joel Embiid, he deferred way too much.
Yep.
Because it's not that he's not confident in his game. As a 21-year-old kid last year, just being able to
playing next to 2 MVP candidates.
Yeah, 2 Hall of Fame, 2 of the top 100 players of all time already. Yeah. It's intimidating for a young guy.
100%.
And I want to see him not be intimidated to be on the floor with those guys at the same time. I want him to know he belongs and that he, I don't want to say he's better than those guys, but he's as important and as good, and offensively speaking, as those guys. Yeah. I want him to lead this. I mean, he's not going to lead this team in scoring, but I want to see 20-plus points a game from Tyrese Maxey. I think
it's there, man. It's
there. The team goes further if Maxey is carrying the load because it takes a little of the pressure, a little of the stress, a little of the body stress off of James Harden and Joel Embiid if Tyrese Maxey is carrying that offensive load.
For sure. And as the 21, 22-year-old kid he is, his body can handle a little bit more banging down by the rim more so than those 2 guys can. But I'm with you because I talked about this with Ginn last night on Faithful Fanatics. Like, obviously, Joel is going to be Joel. But if he doesn't have, you talked about what Doc Rivers has said to Maxey, what he said to Harden so far early on in camp. The one thing that stood out to me is Joel Embiid, the last 2 seasons has had a little bit of a focus on the MVP. Like, he's openly spoken about how it's a goal of his, right? And if he didn't get it last year, my man's never getting it, right? Now, this year, early on in camp, his focus is off of that. And he's paying more attention to Defensive Player of the Year and the defensive side of things. So if Maxey can take more control offensively and Harden averages his 23, 24, maybe a little higher, if Maxey averages his 19, 20, 21, Joel probably will only average 27 and a half is probably a good number. 28 maybe.
What's he averaged last year? He averaged over 30 last year.
Dude. Yeah.
First center to be over 30 points a game since Shaq. I want to see. I know this is crazy to sound. I want to see Joel Embiid average only 24 to 25 points a game this year.
I don't think it's feasible. I think he touched the ball way too much.
That would be my goal. I want him in that 25 and 12 range because then that takes some of the pressure off of him. That takes some of the stress on his body off of him. I want to see those 5 points a game, 6 points a game that he drops go to Tyrese Maxey, which puts it. I want to see all 3 of those guys in that 23 to 25 points a game range.
And I know some people will say, some people are going to say, well, why does it matter where the points come from? But to your point, it's about taking the load off of Joel Embiid offensively. I'm so excited to see a full year of Harden here and another year of Maxey and Tobias knowing his role, because I think the offense is going to look so much different than it did at the end of last year and in the postseason. Now, again, I know 2 weeks in when he's not touching the ball as much and they drop a game or two, we're going to be screaming, get the ball to Joe, get on the block, right? I get it. But
that's fine.
It could just be so much more
If we go and struggle for a
free-flowing.
game or two and you want to change your philosophy to get the team moving again, but over the course of 82 games, I don't want to see it.
Right.
I don't want to see him the dominant, guy that he is on offense. I want it. I mean, we're not even talking about Tobias Harris. We're talking about the big three scoring 20-plus points a game.
Yeah.
You still got Tobias Harris. And
Right.
Tobias Harris is going to play a major role on this team.
Oh, he's probably going to
Because
average around 18.
I don't want to see Joel Embiid play more than 65, 66 games. I don't want to see James Harden play more than 68 games. There's going to be 15, 20 games where those guys don't play. That's Tobias's turn to step up offensively, and he can do it. There's a lot less pressure on him this year.
100%.
So, I don't know. I want to see a deep run in the playoffs. I want to see that opportunity to get to the conference finals, to the championships. You can't do that if Joel Embiid and James Harden are beat to hell by the time we get to postseason basketball. And that's why Tyrese Maxey last night showed that aggressiveness, showed that ability to be the best guy on the court. And we need to see that come 2 weeks from now when week one or game one happens. We need to see him be the best guy on the court at any moment.
No, and he definitely can be, man. Like the kid, we sit here a lot and we talk about the Eagles and we talk about Jalen Hurts' work ethic and how he has these shortcomings, but he's going to put in the work in the offseason, and he does, and it shows. If there is as close to a resemblance as Jalen Hurts putting in the offseason work and improving in areas of his game, Tyrese Maxey is second fiddle to that. Like you just see different stuff added to his game offensively each of the first 3 years. Like for the leap from Kentucky shooting the three to his first year, it wasn't spectacular, but it was better than we thought. Then obviously last year's leap was ridiculous, and now you're already seeing him kind of take the reins offensively. Again, it was a game without James Harden, Joel Embiid in a preseason game and a half. Bottom line is they're trying to instill that confidence in him when those guys play. Doc also in James Harden's ear. Listen, man, we need you. You can be a facilitator, but I need you to be that scorer too. I need you to be that guy. You can do both. It's possible. Be more aggressive, etc. Then you have the whole philosophy of training camp so far being what, Phil? Defense.
Yeah.
And my God, if this team buys into that side of the ball, the way that reports are coming out, of D'Anthony Melton picking up full court, PJ Tucker strapping guys down on day one, Joel Embiid wanting to be a defensive player of the year, Jaden Springer's he's not going to get a lot of run, but Jaden Springer's been awesome.
Dude, he's been getting hyped up in camp and how great he's playing defensively. I actually saw 2 or 3 minutes of the game when he was on the court last night, and he looks a little bit better. I mean, just think of how deep the second.
Hold on.
The second half.
Hold the phones. Matisse Thybulle hit a three from the wing over a defender's outstretched arm. He took a shot with someone closing out on him. Oh, my God. Hold the effing phones. But, yeah, man, if this team, we know what they can be offensively, Phil. There's too much firepower for them not to score the ball 95% of the nights. They're going to have a night here and there where the offense isn't flowing correctly. Guys are missing open shots. The ball's not falling, etc. But most of the time, the offense is going to be more than fine. If they all buy in defensively, because that's all that side of the ball is buying in effort. This team, then the sky is the limit for this team.
I just look at it like, the guys that were playing last night, because obviously outside there's Tucker didn't play last night, House didn't play last night,
right.
A bunch of guys didn't play last night. Just looking at how deep this team now is, George Niang is now your 9th, 10th guy.
Yep.
Furkan Korkmaz will not have to be a backup point
11
guard.
or 12.
And he won't have to be the backup point guard. It won't be a playoff game with Furkan Korkmaz bringing the ball up the court.
Yeah.
You got your second-year guy, Jaden Springer, who is making improvements in his game. He's probably never going to see the court this year, barring an injury.
Yeah.
It's literally the deepest team we've had. I don't even know when. Ever possible. I mean, I go back to that Iverson team that lost to the Lakers. They weren't a deep team. They were just Allen Iverson.
No.
I don't ever
No.
know of a team being this deep.
It's
kind of crazy.
No, I think you're 100% right because you can go back. Now, they're not the best team. Obviously, you go back to that 2018-19 team with
Right.
that starting five, but we know what was the problem, Phil? The bench. No one could score off the bench. The backup five was a huge problem and was exploited in a playoff series. That's no longer the case. So they don't, and even now, like you had Jimmy Butler and JJ Redick compared to James Harden and Tyrese Maxey. So honestly, Phil, who the hell knows if this starting five isn't as good? Because like you still have Embiid and Harris, and instead of now, obviously you had the playmaker in Ben, that might be Matisse or PJ Tucker, so it's a drop off talent wise there. But then you take Maxey and Harden or an older JJ Redick and Jimmy Butler. Now I love Jimmy here, and if James looks like he did in the second half of last season, I would say that I would take that version of Jimmy Butler every day of the week.
Right.
But if James looks healthy and is aggressive, no, I'll take the scoring James Harden and the scoring Tyrese Maxey over that Jimmy Butler pairing any day of the week. So that starting five is going to be right there, and the depth is the biggest thing, and the toughness. And he said Harrell looked nice, and he fouled out in like 12 minutes, bro. I don't care. Now, obviously, I don't want that happening night in and night out, but come out, set a tempo, bro. Drop a shoulder. Did you see that clip with Kobe? That LeBron and D Wade clip and the Dream Team clip, not the Dream Team, the Redeem Team.
No,
I would love to play it for you. One of these days on Trending. They're doing a documentary about that team, and they said they were playing Pau Gasol's team in the Olympics, and before the game started, Kobe said, "I know what they're going to run." Well, he said, first play of the game, I'm running through Pau Gasol's chest, and they were like, "What?" And he goes, "I know what they're going to run. Powell's going to be the last screen. I'm running through that MFer's chest." First play of the game, and they show the highlight of him running through. Give me some of that. Montrezl Harrell, come off the bench and lay a shoulder into somebody. I don't care if you use up your fouls. That's what you're there for. So I'm all for the toughness, man. I don't want to see Dwight Howard technicals every night. I don't want to see you fouling out in 11 minutes every night. But come out, use your fouls, be physical, and bring some of that toughness to Philly, because my God, had they not had it in I don't know how long.
Is there a scenario? I wanted to talk Eagles. We'll just save Eagles talk for tomorrow. We'll just keep the show going with Sixers talk here. Is there a scenario with what you're saying and how you're describing it? We got Harold, Chili saying, B-ball Paul was all over the place last night. How deep this team is. Is there a scenario where we could see Joel Embiid only average 30 minutes a game? Is there a scenario where we could see James Harden at 29, 30 minutes a game? They don't have to play. If we're so talented on the bench, if we're so deep on the bench, and these guys really are good, should we be able to, I don't want to say, instead of them playing 65 games, they could play 72, 73 games each, but they only have to play 28, 30. Old school load management is what it used to be called. Is there a scenario, because you've got Harold that can come off the bench and give you 12 minutes, B-ball Paul could give you, 5 or 7 minutes off the bench for energy. Let him go out there and blow all 5 fouls, in 5 minutes. Is there a scenario where this team is good enough, if Doc is good enough with the rotation and how and who and when, et cetera, that we can, instead of worrying about game playing, we can worry about minutes and controlling their health of these veterans and these stars by just limiting their minutes?
No, it's definitely possible. And old school load management, you see it sometimes a year when the Sixers, get up by 42 in the third quarter. And now it'll be a tick higher than the number you're throwing out. It won't be 30 or 29 or 28. But
right. I mean,
Joel,
right.
Joel, 35, 34, 30. Like there's 48 minutes in a game, and in a normal season, he probably averages what, 38, 39, somewhere around there. If you bring that down to 34, 35, that's some old school load management.
In his career, he's averaged 31.2 minutes, 33.8 minutes a game. In last year, he averaged 33.8 minutes a game.
Really?
In the playoffs, he averaged 38.5.
Makes sense. Yeah, I'm thinking
38 in the playoffs, 33 in the regular season. But just think of 2 minutes less a game. So 33.8. You bring that down to 31 minutes a game. Mm-hmm. You still got Harrell and B-Ball Paul, and hell, Charles Bassey as well. You know what I mean? I don't know who's making this roster, honestly. Who the odd man out is going to be.
There's too many guys.
There's just too many guys. I mean, I said this roster set. I don't think you need to trade, Tybal or, Harris and bring in another player. This team is pretty set. But I could see Daryl Morey making a trade or two for assets, for draft picks, whatever it may be. Because those bottom end of the guys, there's some talented guys that are just not going to fit into this roster. They've got, 17 guys on the roster right now?
Something like that, man. You have to figure you have the start. Let's just say you have the starting five, and then off the bench, you're going to have, if you start Matisse off the bench, you're going to have Tucker, Melton, Niang, Harrell, B-Ball Paul, Shake Milton. That's 11.
Right.
Furkan, House,
Furkan. That's we're at 13 right now.
Isaiah Joe,
Trayvon Queen.
Right. I don't know if you're keeping Jaden Springer or you keeping Charles Bassey or
I don't know. So in my opinion, do you try to find a way? Will somebody give you a second round pick for Shake Milton? Because let's be honest, Shake Milton's kind of an extra at this point. Do you find a way to get a second round pick?
Maybe someone gives a second for Furkan. Yeah. Maybe someone gives a second for Furkan.
Hell, Bassey, Isaiah Joe.
Do you ever just this is off topic, but do you ever just feel like if it wasn't for the 76ers, Furkan Korkmaz wouldn't be an NBA player?
No. I think we give Furkan a bad rap here, deep down inside. I don't think he's as bad as we say he is. He's not
as bad as we say. But like,
I mean, if guys like Nick Stauskas are still playing in the NBA, Furkan Korkmaz,
I'm just saying, like, is there a reason? Like, is there a reason he had to come back for 3 years?
Because we needed him. Honestly, if you look at going into last season, we needed a guy that could shoot off the bench. We didn't know we were getting out of George Niang last year. If George Niang doesn't play the minutes he does last year, Furk probably plays more. Look, Furkan Korkmaz has a confidence and an aura about him that he's Michael Jordan. He's not, obviously. But I do think there's a role I'm not saying he should not have a role on a championship team. There's a lot of mid-level teams. You go Cleveland, you can go to, Indiana or Sacramento or teams like that. I mean, he plays minutes on those games. You get him on a bad team, he probably starts on a 15-20 win team.
Listen, I'll tolerate him, but I need two things from him. Okay. I need you to take the damn arm sleeve off. Arm sleeve. I need it off. I don't know if it's for an injury, whatever. I need it. If you're healthy, I need it off. And I need moderately to severely less bright shoes. Because here's the thing.
My wife loves that. My wife, whenever I turn a basketball game on, the first thing she asks me is, "What color are Furkan shoes tonight?"
No,
she loves
because when you step out of bounds in the corner, maybe it's a little less noticeable when your bright orange shoes aren't hitting the out of bounds. When you turn the ball over, maybe I'll be a little bit less annoyed because you don't have bright yellow effing shoes on that don't go with the goddamn blue jerseys, Furkan. It makes 0 sense to me. 0 cents to me. So when you aggravate me, it'll aggravate me a little less when you don't have clown shoes on. Please. Oh, my God.
Furkan's not a good basketball player.
Phil, I'll say this.
Better than we give him credit for.
I'll say this. I see we're at the 58.5-minute mark.
Yeah.
If there's one thing that this toughness, that this depth brings to this team, it is that when we get to March, when we get into April, and we're ready for playoff basketball, there is and there should be no more that false hope, that false sense of, oh, well, Shake Milton's playing good, so maybe he can get, maybe he can score off the bench for it. Oh, well, Furkan gets, or if Isaiah Joe gets hot, maybe they can, come off the bench and hit a couple of threes for you. There's no more of that. Shake's going to get some run. I'm sure as hell you're going to see Furk in the regular season, but in terms of when you get down to the nitty gritty in a playoff series, you have the depth off the bench, the scoring off the bench, the physicality off the bench, where you don't need to buy in at the last second. Well, maybe this guy, where we've seen this movie for the last 5 years, we know how this movie ends, and we're going to try to talk ourselves into them over exceeding our expectations in the postseason, because it's never going to happen. You don't need that anymore.
You're going to be really surprised when guys that you're used to getting run get DMP coaches' decisions. Because honestly, you play 10 guys, 10, 11-man rotation. There's going to be guys. Some nights Shake Milton, Furkan Korkmaz will be DMPs.
Mm-hmm.
Doc Rivers will then, based off of a matchup, House might be a DMP one night. Harrell might be a DMP one night when B-Ball Paul gets a bigger run. You're going to see some really big rotations of who gets those DMPs. But you bring up like April and playoff. Look, we got the Phillies making the playoffs right now. First time in 11 years. At the same time that the Sixers are getting started and that the
Eagles are 4-0.
And then guess what? The Eagles will be celebrating that Super Bowl in February, right when pitchers and catchers start reporting to camp.
Oh yeah.
And we get to fire that. And then first pitch, first game of the season, the Sixers will be starting their playoff championship run.
Oh
Dude,
yeah. Hey man, you skipped right over March Madness.
Now we have 3 teams in the playoffs all at the same time. There's going to be a long stretch. The cycle
just continues.
The cycle.
No more empty darkness.
No, at least for the next year or two. We'll see.
Yeah, right.
All right, we're going to wrap up Trending in the AM right there. Again, finally, after 11 long years, our Fighting Phils are back in the playoffs. I am super excited. Dylan is super excited. All of Team DSM and all Philadelphia is super excited. Congratulations to the Philadelphia Phillies. Be back tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. as always. Everybody have a good day and ring the frickin' bell, baby.
Go Birds.
And Philadelphia has it.